Welcome to the Skill Talk Disrupt podcast, where we dive into the world of innovation and technology. My name is Malika, and I'm the founder and CEO of Skill Talk, which is a recruitment company which operates across the globe, focusing in the technology space. Today, I have with me Stiven, who is the founder and CEO of BKN301. He's here to talk to us a bit more about the world of fintech, in particularly how artificial intelligence is actually being used in the industry. As well as that, he'll be presenting and talking to us a bit more about what he does in his company and what the future plans are. So, Stiven, great to have you on here.
Hi, Malika.
Yeah, good to chat. Tell our audience a bit more about yourself and your background, and what made you start your company.
Yeah, so I'm a serial startupper. So I created and I funded and sold a couple of fintech before BKN301 in Italy. I'm from Italy.
Okay, nice.
And I worked in Europe, UK, and in Italy for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
I created many companies. Of course, I'm more focused on the fintech space. So I followed the new trend related to the innovation in financial services. In my last company, BKN301, we created the company in March 2021.
Right.
And basically, we had the vision to create a player in the banking as a service space, able to fulfill the gap between Europe and Middle East and North Africa. So it's a company that works in the tech space, in the financial services, but with a vision of emerging markets and maybe we can say a more Mediterranean vision of the industry that is quite unique as approach.
Yeah.
And yes, now we are working in Egypt, in North Africa, in Middle East, on the Gulf, in Eastern Europe, and in Europe as well, of course. And we believe that the banking as a service industry in general, and of course AI is part of the value proposition that the industry has now, is super important to allow and to unleash the potential of the fintech ecosystem, especially in emerging markets where companies and startup needs services and they need a less structured approach in compared to more institutional way to do things in general.
Okay.
So.
What made you look into the sort of the Middle East and African markets? It's pretty interesting and unique, actually.
Yeah. No, first of all, we are talking about markets where the population is very young. There is a strong connection between North Africa, for example, and also Eastern Europe with Europe, because Europe is an area very old in terms of population. Yeah. So, for example, especially in Italy, Italy is one of the oldest country in the world. So the average age in Italy is 47 years, and it's very, very high. Only Japan is comparable to Italy in the world. So that creates a specific, unique behavior in the market in Italy, because an old population has different behaviors than a young population. And the connection between the population in Europe and the population in North Africa is very high because, of course, immigration and the importance of the new wave of development and people that are coming and they are come in Europe. And basically it change also in the next future, but also in the present, but also it will change also in the future, the approach also in the fintech ecosystem. So we want to provide services to, as I said, fintech in North Africa and emerging markets to be created and also to connect to Europe. So, the standard in the tech and in the compliance business, for example, in the fintech ecosystem are completely different in North Africa and in Europe. And to have a player like BKN301 able to standardize and create a connection between different ecosystems is so important to allow also them to work in different markets. So that's what we are doing as now. We have this approach, and honestly, I believe also that's super important also to increase the financial inclusion in those markets. Because there are many young workers that want to have access, for example, to the banking ecosystem, and the many fintechs that are trying to allow them to have access to these services, but sometimes they don't have the connection with the European market, for example, or the European ecosystem. So that's something that we are working on, and this is one of the reasons why BKN was created 4 years ago, at least. And so that's our vision in terms of market evolution. I think the future of Europe is very well connected to the evolution in North Africa, and I think it's similar to what happened in US with the Mexican people, because of course it's the most important source of new people in US as well. In Europe, the most important source of new people is North Africa for geographical reasons.
What do you think of the US banking system? I'm curious.
But I think it's so different. I worked in the US. I lived in San Francisco for some.
I lived in LA.
Yeah, for some years ago, but I go often in US. Honestly, I think it's super different, and the approach is maybe more open than the European ecosystem, but also it's a little bit more risky. And yeah, it's like many things. There is something good and something bad. I think the good part is the fact that it's more open, so you can do more business for sure. From the other side, is by far more risky. So sometimes it's very risky for the companies and population. In Europe, we are by far more safe, but of course, by far also less open to innovation and also to new opportunities. There are some players that try to do something different, also in Europe. We need to work in the edge. So that's the point.
I mean, I remember in the US though, they still use cashier's check, and you still got to do the signature. That's kind of what they used to do in Europe 10 years ago.
Yeah. No, honestly, on the payment ecosystem in US, it's quite impressive that, for example, the level of protection in the card payment ecosystem is very low compared to Europe. For example, in US, you don't have the 3DS security system that we have in Europe.
Yeah.
So, for example, it's quite impossible if someone steal my card in Europe. Basically, they can do something, but very not so much. In the US, if someone clone or steal my card, they can take all my money basically, and quite impressive. That's why I said it's by far more easy to get a card, for example, in US, but it's by far also more risky. In Europe, it's by far more complicated to open a bank account or have a card, but at the same time, it's by far more protected. So in North Africa, for example, is also super complicated to get a card, and also it's very complicated to do scam, to be fraud. In Egypt, for example, it's quite impossible because everything is super controlled. So it's always a level of risk that you want to take.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so just talking about the topic around, because I know we spoke a little bit beforehand around artificial intelligence. I'm curious as to your thoughts around how artificial intelligence is actually being used in fintech and also being used at your company, and kind of like what is the future of that?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I think in general, in the new tech ecosystem worldwide, artificial intelligence has an important role because, first of all, it's not something new, but now is on hype. But it's on hype mostly because of ChatGPT and the innovation provided by OpenAI. But in general, I think that show how important is the fact to create interaction with users. So artificial intelligence is something that's not super new in financial industry. In the financial industry, it's something that we are working on in the last 10 years at least, but maybe more. But the interaction with the direct interaction with the natural language with users is something new. That's the innovation. So I think access to this kind of technology is super important, and at the same time, I think we need to see the real opportunities in the interaction with users. So, for example, in the financial industry, customer care systems are super. They will have a super impact on artificial intelligence. At the same time, for example, credit scoring is one of the things that we are working on. Is very important, but it's not something new. A system based on artificial intelligence to understand and to track the behavior of users in credit scoring are older than 10 years. But the innovation here that is coming is the interaction between the financial ecosystem and users. I believe, honestly, artificial intelligence, for example, one of the most important effects that we'll have in the future will be the complete evolution on the device. So I believe, for example, smartphones are very close to be only a memory for us, but because the interaction with artificial intelligence will be by far more easy and more complex. So basically, we could do many of the actions that we do today without device. So that's one of the most impressive, I think, evolution in artificial intelligence in the coming future. And honestly, if we take a look to the innovation on the device, I think it's quite easy to understand that we are at the top, and basically we cannot evolve a lot more in the coming years. The smartphone evolution is quite blocked in the last was quite blocked in the last 5 years, honestly. So I think the next step in the artificial intelligence in general, but also in the financial ecosystem, will be interaction also with financial services without a device. So that's something that we are working on, and something that I think we will see in the next future.
Right. Okay. What about when it comes to sort of like fraud prevention, though? There's obviously been discussions in how artificial intelligence is being used around fraud protection as a service.
Yes, following following the same thing that I said now. Honestly, I think fraud are related to interaction. So if I have an interaction with my device and my financial services with artificial intelligence, honestly, could be even worse, because if I want to scam you and I use artificial intelligence, I have a superpower. And and it could be very dangerous. I think, it could be used also for fraud prevention, but honestly, I see more the risk to see the artificial intelligence used against users. I think the solution on that will be for sure the creation of a way to interact without device and without real interaction. So in this way, we will have more security, and we could use artificial intelligence in a more smart way.
Yeah. Do you do anything to do with sort of like expenses? And if so, like how do you think like that could be used in terms of simplifying that as well? Because again, when people are doing expenses in fintech, it's super complicated. I'd still think the system's quite backwards.
So we work, basically we provide more than 500 different services to our customers. We manage everything, so we manage also expenses. In general, honestly, I follow the same topic, for sure, artificial intelligence, and all the things related to interaction could be different in the future and more easy for users. And it is, of course, we have project to use complexity and to have a better interaction with our customer.
Cool. All right. Well, what's next for you in your business then? What are your sort of your growth plans for the rest of this year and next year? I know there's probably one to disclose, but the things you can disclose.
Of course, no. I think in general we are growing very fast. We are in a the market is evolving. I think it's quite clear that in the market, for example, for banking as a service, so the industry where we are in the last year we saw some M&A activities.
Yeah.
And I think in general in the market, it's something that will happen again soon for many players. I don't know if we want to follow this path right now, but for sure it's something that could happen in the future, because in general the evolution on the banking as a service industry, it's something that is very strong, and it's a huge value for traditional banking ecosystem. So especially in Europe, where we have a huge bank but with a very old infrastructure, companies related to banking as a service are like candy for them. So let's see.
All right. Well, absolute pleasure to have you on here, and really interesting to hear more about insights around fintech, particularly around like artificial intelligence. And then you talked a lot about sort of engagement being the key discussion point. So yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.